on legislation oftentimes does not vote, but decided to do so here. And right now, this is a unanimous vote. It's still ongoing. 118 and counting, 120 votes now on my phone here. It says 58 Republicans and counting out 59 Republicans. This is probably going to be a unanimous vote, which is such a remarkable turnaround, not just for the House, but for the Speaker, who tried to deny this bill from coming for a vote because of he raising a number of concerns, really siding with the president's opposition for such a long time. But now coming to this side after the president reversed course, the Speaker himself also reversed course. But the Speaker was sharply critical of this bill. Just moments ago, you heard him on the House floor contending that this bill does not adequately protect victims and the like. And I put that question about the Speaker's criticism to Thomas Massie, the Republican from Kentucky, who is leading the charge for this bill, and he had some sharp words in response to the Speaker. Now railing on this bill. He says that it was poorly drafted, does not protect the victims as well. What do you say to him?
Well, he's trying to say that rich and powerful men who were on the plane to Epstein Island are now victims. That they would be victims because their names would get disclosed. Like, look at his PowerPoint presentation today. He's creating a new category of victims. So I think that's how a Christian man can stand up there and say a lie like that, is he's got something in the back of his head that makes it okay. But if he had real concerns, he could have introduced his own legislation. Look, the reason they're in there debating this is we drug them kicking and screaming into it. They hated it. They've tried to stop it the whole time. And by the way, I love Jim Jordan. He wouldn't give me 15 seconds of time to debate this bill on the floor of the House today. That's why I had to claim time during the rule debate. Jim McGovern granted me control of about half of his time, and that's when I yielded time to Nancy Mace and Marjorie Taylor Greene, and we had our side of the debate.
Sir, you mentioned on your floor speech that if this does go to the Senate, that Johnson is looking for a loophole for amending this. Can you explain a little bit about that?
Yeah, you have all this discussion about judicial norms. You have some lawyers in here, particularly on my Judiciary Committee, who say, oh, you don't release grand jury material, that violates judicial norms. Well, what the problem is, our judicial system has been woefully broken and corrupted over the last couple decades, and the Epstein case is an example of that. He wants to create a provision of this law that would exempt the very people we're trying to expose, which are the men who flew to Epstein Island or in New York City and raped these women. That's what the result of Speaker Johnson's legislation that he wants. Now he says, oh, we'll make sure that they are credible allegations. Well, this begs the question, is he calling the survivors who witnessed here today at the House Triangle in our press conference incredible or uncredible or unbelievable? That's the implication.
What's the impact if the Senate does in fact change this bill?
They're part of the cover-up. And these bozos here, they pretend like, okay, now we're ready to pull the Band-Aid off after 5 months of shooting themselves in the foot politically and morally. They're ready to pull the Band-Aid off. But the reality is, Speaker Johnson's press conference shows that he is unrepentant. They have a backup plan. And I think it's going to work poorly for them, by the way. By the time they get done with trying to cover up by having these other investigations or having amendments in the Senate, they're just going to make more people complicit. Like, it takes somebody to offer those amendments, and then they're going to have votes on those amendments. And I would encourage them to pass this bill as is, put it on the president's desk. It's got protections to prevent the release of child pornography. That's a lie. The Speaker, go read the bills, guys. It's right in there. It's got protections to protect the.
So the question is going to be, will the Senate, in fact, change this bill or accept it as is? Because right now, this is a unanimous vote. Still no votes here. A stunning turnaround. And look at the big magic number here is that when it reaches that 2/3 threshold, that's enough for passage, 290 votes in the United States House. It is very clearly going to exceed that and much, much more. Guys.
Yeah, veto-proof majority very likely here as we're looking at no nay votes. Monty Raju, thank you so much. And we're watching the time countdown. That clock will go to 0. You may not see everyone vote by then. They'll hold it open. just so you're aware, when it gets to 0, very possibly, unless everyone rushes and we see everyone. But characteristically, Congress kind of takes its time. The House does take its time there. Will, I wonder if you can kind of speak to the fact that, I mean, look, child sex trafficking, it's a crime. It's a problem in America. It's a real thing. It's also the source of a lot of conspiracy theories on the far right, right? Pizzagate, QAnon, it's an obsession. And that explains why the president wasn't able to get people just to move on. Can you talk about, this is something that has been sort of years in the making, this support that the president was not able to overcome.
That's why this is such a resonant issue. I mean, for so many years, Trump supporters have latched onto conspiracy theories that are based around child sex trafficking. Now, in the Epstein case, this is a very real issue. On the other hand, it's also been the basis for a lot of conspiracy theories like QAnon, very similar to Pizzagate. There are religious elements for a lot of Trump supporters. They see themselves as rescuing children from almost satanic figures. They see themselves as soldiers for God. And so in that way, that's, I think, a lot of the emotional aspect that Trump has not been able to overcome here.
More than anybody else. And, you know, I just wanted to add this, if I might, as we used to say in the Senate, a point of personal privilege. In my last year in the Senate was right before the Trump-Hillary Clinton election, and it was very close to the election. I read an article in Mother Jones that talked about the Trump modeling agency, which had run for well more than a dozen years. And people came forward and said, at that time, there were girls as young as 14 who were coming over from foreign countries to the Trump modeling agency. And they were promised they would have housing, and they were thrown into apartments, 11 of them in a 2-bedroom apartment. And it was a mess. And I wrote a letter, and I just looked at it again, to the Obama administration. And I wrote in my hand, protect the children. Trump's got his initials all over this stuff. So as far as I'm concerned, the cult is broken. Thank goodness for that.
What about the allegation from Republicans, or the justification? They'll say that if Trump was really involved in any of this, if he was caught up in any of the stuff, if he had any guilt, the Democrats would have released it a long time ago. Do you see any truth in that?
I think that there were many administrations that didn't look at this because there were investigations going on, including the investigation of Ghislaine Maxwell. And by the way, frankly, speaking for only myself, what he did in terms of Ms. Maxwell, who was not only a sex trafficker, but also, and I say this from reading what I've read, she was an abuser, a physical abuser of these girls. How he has treated her. And now she's in a country club prison. That, to me, says everything you need to know about Donald Trump. And yes, there were reasons why information was not given. I'm not happy about it, but I don't want to look back. I want to look forward like the survivors. This is a moment. The cult has broken. Let's see where it all leads.
All right, so the motion has appeared to pass. We're now at 312 yes votes for this to pass. We see one no right now. We saw one no a moment ago. Those votes can change, so don't yet put too much stock in whether somebody will remain a no vote. It can change up until voting is closed. And we are not yet ready either to say that it has officially passed because, again, voting is open and votes can change either way. But it does appear as if it does have enough votes to pass right now. There are still a little over 100 lawmakers who have yet to vote. And again, we do expect everyone who's there to show up and vote for this, or at least Speaker Mike Johnson does, because he says it'll be unanimous. The other bit of news that's out there today is a story from ProPublica, and we're going to watch this vote, so I'll just read it to you. This is about Andrew Tate and an apparent White House intervention on his behalf. ProPublica reports interviews and records reviewed by ProPublica show a White House official told senior Department of Homeland Security officials to return the devices to the brothers. This is Andrew Tate and his brother when they got to Florida earlier this year. Return their cell phone devices and whatnot several days after they were seized. Remember, DHS stopped them, seized their devices when they got off the plane in Florida. The official who delivered the message, Paul Ingrassia, you know that name, is a lawyer who previously represented the Tate brothers before joining the White House, where he was working as its DHS liaison. In his written request, a copy of which was reviewed by ProPublica, Ingrassia chided authorities for taking the action, saying the seizure of the Tate's devices was not a good use of time or resources. The request to return the electronics to the Tates, he emphasized, was coming from the White House. Now, Ingrassia's lawyer has said that he never ordered these devices to be given back. ProPublica asked whether he asked for them to be given back. The lawyer did not engage with that. He said he never ordered them to be given back. Lisa Rubin, Andrew Tate, remind us who he is and why this is relevant, especially right now as we're talking about Jeffrey Epstein.
Andrew Tate is a gentleman who has lived overseas for some period of time, has become extraordinarily popular as a manfluencer, for lack of a better description, sort of somebody who interacts in a larger media environment that has some overlap with MAGA, but really is a leader in this culture, Katie, that blames women for lots of problems in the world, a heavily misogynistic, sort of bro-y culture, and has since been accused of sex trafficking women in Romania alongside his brother. Paul Ingrassia was their private lawyer at one point in time. He was also the now withdrawn nominee to lead the Office of Special Counsel, which differentiated from special counsels like Mueller and the like, is a permanent institution that specializes in ethics enforcement of all things. He withdrew from that due to a series of texts in which he called himself someone with a Nazi streak and other racist content. The fact that Paul Ingrassia made the request to return electronic devices to the Tate brothers and did so
Yeah, but as we said, he doesn't seem like a very enthusiastic leader of this parade, because when he's asked by reporters repeatedly about whether he could just release him himself, I mean, he has the authority to do so, he lashes out in a very nasty way. He clearly has some discomfort with getting these files out there, or maybe being forced to get them out there. It's not clear. And
has lashed out at two female reporters in particular, and one in very disparaging and sexist terms. The fact that Donald Trump's own explanation of his break with Jeffrey Epstein has also morphed should be troubling to us. The original explanation was that Donald Trump said he was trying to poach employees at Mar-a-Lago. Now he says, I broke with him because he was a sick pervert. Well, my question to the president is, if he's a sick pervert, why didn't you say something? Yeah. That's not criminal, but that's certainly complicity.
Yeah, I mean, if you thought it was so gross, why not raise the alarm? And then also, why put in the labor secretary, who's the prosecutor who made the sweetheart deal with Jeffrey Epstein? Why make him your labor secretary? And if there was a big break, what exactly happened? There's so much unknown about the relationship that it raises more questions. It allows this story to fester. Here's an update on where we are on the vote. You'll see time remaining is 0, but the vote is still open, so don't go by that time clock. There are still 25 lawmakers left to cast their vote. As of now, it is unanimous. 407 lawmakers, Republicans and Democrats, saying yes to releasing the Epstein files. There's another no on your screen right now, but again, I would take that with a grain of salt, because we've seen a few no's and they've changed to yeses. So until this vote is closed, lawmakers are allowed to change their minds. So keep an eye on it. We do expect it to last for a few more minutes. In fact, why don't I go to the source on this? Ali Vitale, how much longer is this going to last?
It'll last until whenever they decide to gavel it out. I do think that if the speaker was talking about this being unanimous, that he's going to make sure that everyone who's here has a chance to actually vote. When it comes to some of the no votes that have come up and then gone away, one of them was Ronnie Jackson of Texas, who came out here just a few moments ago and said, yeah, I made a mistake. I rolled back my vote. And so it's music to my ears every single time you say the vote isn't done until the gavel is down, because that is the rule of how we look at these votes here here in Congress. As of right now, there is still one vote lingering on the screen. Again, we have seen those change in the past, but I'm watching to see if our team who's inside the building right now is going to chase this member to see why he is voting no, and if it was a meaningful no, or if he just, like some of his colleagues before him, hit the wrong button as he was trying to cast his vote. But ultimately, I think what's important here is you're well over that 2/3 threshold, which was needed to pass this bill. It's not the typical way that we talk about it. It's not the simple majority, but it is the 2/3 majority because they're doing this through a mechanism called suspension. It just means that it's not governed by a rule. That's typically the way every other bill moves to the floor. This was something that the speaker put on a faster timeline. He didn't wait for the discharge petition to fully ripen after it got 218 signatures. The speaker basically said, okay, the folks who want this are going to get it, and I'm going to move it up as fast as I can. And then, of course, over the weekend, we watched the White House posture change, the posture of most Republicans, because even as they were leaving town, Katie, frankly, after they reopened the government in the middle and end of last week, many Republicans who I was speaking to, rank and file members who were nowhere near signing this discharge petition, were starting to tell me that they were likely to vote yes on this whenever it came to the floor. Obviously, those members were all having conversations with leadership. They were all having conversations with the speaker, making him aware of their plans. It's partly why I imagine you saw such a massive wave of reversal, not just from House Republican leadership, but then also from those in the White House who could very much see the writing on the wall. And so, again, I'll keep you posted on that one no vote as it exists right now. Our producer, Seda, is in the chamber, and that no vote right now is Clay Higgins, a Republican, very conservative member. We're going to see if we can't find him as he either leaves the floor or tries to walk out of this building and see if we can't get an explanation on that, but I will keep you posted as we get it.
So we're waiting. It looks like they're getting close to gaveling out of this thing. There are 7 lawmakers who have not yet voted. Again, Clay Higgins remains a no. We'll see if that changes before the vote is closed. As Ali was saying, the speaker is likely to let everybody who is there get a chance to cast their vote. Again, we're now down to 5. Ali, the speaker, is he going to nod to the gentleman sitting up on the dais to tell him when to close it? And that again, is that the president of the House, or is he, what's his official title?
Yeah, I would imagine. So I don't have the ability to see what you're seeing right now, but I would imagine that whoever is sitting in the chair is the one who's really going to be controlling when this vote is over. He will be watching a number of things, including whether or not those lingering 5 members have cast their ballot. There usually is a sense of attendance issues, if there are any. I haven't heard any of those whispers so far yet today, but we'll see ultimately what we see. I'm still checking my phone to see if we've gotten any explanation around Clay Higgins, so I'll keep tracking that. But yeah, I mean, this vote will end when it ends. I mean, whether the speaker nods to whoever is sitting in the chair, again, I'm sorry I can't see what's happening directly while I'm talking to you. But yeah, we'll hear that gavel when we hear it.
All right, so let me ask you this, Senator Boxer, if you are still with us, about what would happen, what is going to happen next in the Senate. Is there any other mechanism beyond unanimous consent to get this bill to the floor if the leader doesn't want to bring it?
It pretty much takes unanimous consent to move anything quickly. Let's be clear. So it really is going to be up to Thune. And, you know, if the Democrats aren't happy, they can try to maneuver, but it is going to take a while. I do want to say this to you, Katie. We all heard Trump call Epstein a pervert. So I would ask rhetorically, if Epstein was a pervert, and I certainly agree, what does that make Ghislaine Maxwell? And what does that make Trump for treating a pervert? Because that's what she was, because she was his partner in crime. How could he treat her the way he's treating her, like a princess? So he's in big trouble. He's in big trouble. But as for the Senate, getting back to your question, if it's going to go smoothly, it's going to go fast, it's going to have to be unanimous consent.
All right, that's good to know. Brendan Buck is with us as well, former press secretary to Speakers John Boehner and Paul Ryan. He's also an MS Now political analyst. Brendan,
the
this is the gavel. Let's listen. Hold on.
427. The nays are 1. 2/3 being in the affirmative, the rules are suspended, the bill is passed, and without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table. Pursuant to Clause 8, Rule 20, the unfinished business is the vote on ordering the previous question on House Resolution 879, on which the yeas and nays are ordered. The clerk will report the title of the resolution.
House Calendar Number 47, House Resolution 879.
Okay, so it passed. The Epstein files, the release of the Epstein files has passed the House. It will now go to the Senate. It was 327 to 1. So not unanimous, as Speaker Mike Johnson predicted it would be, but pretty close. Brendan, what's the deal with Clay Higgins?
It's a great question. I don't know. He's a bit of a quirky member, somebody who kind of does his own thing. So not surprising that he would be the type of person who did this. But I'm sure a lot of people will be wanting to figure it out. It doesn't really make a difference at the end of the day. I think what is important here, as you said, 427 votes. Very rare that you get something of any significance that passes in such a clear, bipartisan, almost unanimous way. And if there was any, it sounds like Donald Trump now supports it, but if there was any hope that he was going to be able to veto this or something, very clearly you have the votes to override a veto. So I think the House is now hoping that this issue is behind them. I'm skeptical that it is behind them. I imagine this is not going away anytime soon, but this is certainly a headache that was of Mike Johnson's making in some ways, dragging this out as long as he did. And it just shows that there was a lot of pent-up desire for people to be on the record on this issue, Clay Higgins aside. It is not very common, again, that you see something with such bipartisan support that is so contentious. And I think that's just a notable moment.
Yeah, that's a really good point. 427 to 1. Ali Vitale, I know you're standing outside of the Capitol down the stairs where lawmakers are going to be departing, and I'm imagining you're going to try to grab as many of them as you can. In the meantime, Clay Higgins, any answers?
Yeah, so I went back through Twitter with the help of our team, and he had previously been talking about his concern with the fact that this discharge petition was coming alongside the Oversight Committee's investigation. Now, this was at the point where the Speaker himself was also saying that he preferred the Oversight Committee's investigation to this discharge petition, which he felt was much broader. But Clay Higgins has actually just sent an X post where he said, "I've been a principled no on this bill from the beginning." He says what was wrong with the bill 3 months ago is still wrong today. At a later point, he says, if enacted in its current form, this type of broad reveal of criminal investigative files released to, and these are his words, a rabid media will absolutely result in innocent people being hurt, not by my vote. And he again underscores the fact that he prefers the House Oversight Committee's method of investigation. And look, it's still going to continue. Just because this discharge petition got the signatures it needed, has now passed the House in this form, will go to the Senate, could go to the president's desk. I mean, none of that takes the House Oversight Committee's investigation off the table. Lisa and I talk about this investigation probably once a day. They have subpoenaed some key documents, including those from the Epstein estate, that have already shed significant public light on what some of the conversations were in Epstein's orbit, who some of those key players were. You've got Larry Summers now saying in response to the release of those emails that he's taking a step back from public life. Senator Warren wants to see him fired from Harvard. I mean, there's already dominoes that are falling on this. And so the longtime posture of Massey, Khanna, Marjorie Taylor Greene, the survivors themselves has been, just because you move forward on transparency on the Epstein files doesn't mean that you're also not still watching the Oversight Committee do their work. You know, Mike Flood was the man who was sitting in the chair, ultimately gaveling down and saying the rules have been suspended. It's a procedural term because that is how they passed this particular bill. But it's also true to the larger landscape that we're watching changing here in Washington, Katie. This has been a live political football for years now, and we are watching the House inch it ever so much more closely to its ultimate conclusion. The rules are suspended at this point. We are in new territory on this massive issue of transparency around the Epstein files. And because of the House's vote today, we're one step closer to that.
Yeah, let's bring in former Virginia Congresswoman Barbara Comstock as well. Congresswoman, thank you so much for joining us. Are you surprised?
No, not at all. And really, before MAGA was focusing on this, Republicans were always focused on the issue of human trafficking. So what is sad is that it took so long to get to this point. And this is really a victory for the victims who were children. So they were children when this happened, young girls and children. And that's why it was so impactful when they showed those pictures of what they looked like when this happened to them. So you really understood that these were little girls, and you'd understood that could be your daughter, your granddaughter. And it's a tribute to them, and it's a tribute to the few Republicans and obviously the Democrats who stood with them and brought this vote. And shame on these Republicans who, until they got permission from Donald Trump, and that is most of the Republican caucus, they wouldn't take this vote. And when the speaker today was saying, oh, where were they for 4 years? He's a lawyer. He knows this was an open case until this year. And then it got closed for whatever reason. So he knows you couldn't get these files until the case was closed. So as Barbara Boxer pointed out, the way Ghislaine Maxwell, who was also a sexual predator, the way she preyed upon these girls, she was the one who brought them in, of course, and procured them. She should not be getting the kind of treatment she's gotten. The way Todd Blanche has dealt with this is disgraceful. He should be hauled up and dealt with. And certainly Ghislaine Maxwell should be put right back where she was to start with. And Donald Trump, who's been calling her a nice woman and dangling a pardon, that is disgraceful. And I think every Republican who refused to sign that discharge petition and wouldn't sign on to this until they got permission, Daddy, may I support this, really has a lot to answer for. And I've already seen, some of their opponents say, hey, yeah, thanks a lot for signing on, but, you had to get Daddy's permission before you could do this. That's not how people who really care about this issue should be handling it. And that's why I think today you saw, aside from the speaker, you saw most of the biggest goofballs out there, like Troy Niels and people like that, were the only ones who would come to really defend it. And they weren't defending the victims. They were defending Donald Trump, of all people, not a victim. You
hit on something, I think, uncomfortable, if not telling. And this is kind of a pattern, or is a pattern, it seems to be, in this administration. You talk about Ghislaine Maxwell and the way that she's been treated, moved to Club Fed. There's nobody in the administration that's taking responsibility or credit for moving her, even though she was convicted.
Todd Blanche was in charge of all this. He's at the top. You can't, they are responsible. It is Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche. They run the place. It's not nobody takes responsibility. They are responsible.
Well, what I'm saying is they're not coming out and saying, I requested it, I ordered it.
Well, okay, they could order her right back. And of course, we know if Donald Trump tells them to jump, they all put their Donald Trump sneakers on and jump as high as he tells them to.
Well, so, let me finish this thought here. This discomfort, because you have the Ghislaine Maxwell stuff moving to Club Fed. You have the Andrew Tate news reporting by ProPublica that Lisa and I just discussed a moment ago, that there was a DHS liaison from the White House, Paul Ingrassia, who we know from the text message chain where he talked about having a Nazi streak. ProPublica is reporting that he requested that DHS give back the electronic devices to the Tate brothers, saying that request came from the White House. He's denying it, but that's what ProPublica saw in his reporting. And then you also have a reporting from the New York Times yesterday about DHS as a department and what it has become. It's gone from, protecting Homeland Security and the investigations that fell under that umbrella to the Department of Deportation, focusing on rounding up and deporting. But listen to this. So in the melee of it, in the transition of it, moving these agents from one place to another, the New York Times reports that they've missed or been severely late on some pretty egregious and scary cases of child sex abuse. So it's an
course.
administration that ran on trying to protect children and protect women and hold these powerful people, these abusers, accountable. But you have Ghislaine going to Club Fed. You have Andrew Tate maybe getting, treated nicely by this White House. And then you also have this reporting about DHS and missing some pretty serious cases.
Well,
Do you
I think
see
if
that
you look
as a problematic trend?
Well, certainly. And I think if you look at some of the pardons that Donald Trump has made, including some of the January 6 ones, they've been abusive men also. I mean, listen, it's, protect these abusers, whether it's, when the Tates were let in, remember Governor DeSantis immediately said, hey, we're not for any of that here in Florida. And he opened up a case against them, which is why they, to use a Trump word, skedaddled out of the country. So it is really disgraceful, the kind of people here that they are protecting. And you have never heard from the White House any word of sympathy from Donald Trump for these victims and these young girls. And that is what is so disgraceful. And, now you're hearing all this talk about, we're worried about victims. Well, listen, we know the people who hung out with Jeffrey Epstein were millionaires and billionaires. A lot of the people who went to his house, whether innocently or not, whether they knew about, a lot of their names have come out, and a lot of them have explained, hey, I didn't know when I had dinner with them, or hey, I should have known and it was a mistake. They're all big boys and girls. They have a lot of money. They can explain themselves. But these little girls didn't know they were dealing with. They are the ones that need priority one, and this material needs to get out there. They need to be the ones we're protecting, not the millionaires and billionaires who hung out with this pervert, which clearly Trump knew he was a pervert, he's now told us. So why wasn't, but he was the dog who didn't bark, Donald Trump, according to Jeffrey Epstein documents now. So it'll be great to see more and what else maybe wasn't barked about.
All right, Barbara Comstock, really good to have you, as always. Just to recap for everybody, we just saw the vote in the House to release the Epstein files. 427 yes votes, 1 no vote, just 1. That was Clay Higgins of Louisiana. He says he has problems with the bill. He's worried about what exactly will be released, these investigative documents that will go, in his words, to a rabid media. But he does support the House investigation, the House oversight investigation. So 1 no vote, nearly unanimous to release these files. So it now goes to the Senate. We're going to talk more about that in just a couple seconds. Sit tight. The next hour of Katie Tur Reports starts after a quick break.
Last word to you. I mean, I'm also wondering what's up with Ghislaine Maxwell, right? I mean, we see in these emails that Epstein and Ghislaine appeared to believe they had some kind of leverage on Trump. Maybe that's true, maybe it's not. But she sort of inexplicably was moved to this minimum security prison. And I think we're going to start getting more answers if Democrats take back one of the houses of Congress in the midterms. And every day the administration tries to push this back, gets them closer to that election where the situation could get even worse for the president.
And yeah, it's a very good question. And we should just note she was moved to this sort of more of a prison camp. She's been having certain privileges, as a whistleblower has told The Hill, where it comes to meals, unlimited toilet paper, which I know we maybe chuckle at, but that's actually a very big deal, certainly in prison. So we're going to see where this all goes. Thank you so much to our panel. Really appreciate it. A new hour of CNN News Central starts after a quick break.
This is the farmer's dog turkey. Apparently, this is also turkey. But only one actually looks like turkey, since only one is gently cooked without the ultra-processing. And only one is human grade, because good ingredients matter. But the best recipes...
Biologic and Crohn's disease. Skyrizi is also approved for ulcerative
I don't know what to think. It's such a crazy turn of events. I honestly, I didn't see it coming where it would turn into the unanimous decision like that. I thought we were going to get, well, at first I thought, the four Republicans that we already knew, Marjorie, Massey, and Mason, well, I don't know, and then they were saying that 40 might come on board, and then I think Trump got squirrely, and he realized the dam was breaking, and everyone was going to vote. You couldn't vote against, you couldn't vote to protect pedophiles, so you had to vote, otherwise your political career is over. And even he had to say, but I think, is Trump going to try to erase the files? I've seen that headline. Is Trump going to scrub the files? Are we really going to get, and then it's going to be unanimous, so you're not allowed to veto it if it's unanimous. So that they don't need the president's signature. He can't veto it. Is that what veto proof means, right? If it reaches a certain threshold, so and then Kash Patel, he built his whole name brand was taking down the pedophiles and the billionaire cabal, and in the same way that Elon Musk manipulated people with the electric cars, pretending the same way that Elon Musk pretended to really care about electric cars, Trump pretended to care about billionaire pedophilia. You know what I mean?
Four. Thomas Massey, myself, Nancy Mace, and Lauren Boebert. We had to sign a discharge petition, and we had to fight through intimidation, and we had to endure it for months to push that discharge petition finally to 218 to get this vote to come out. This is what the American people are sick of, and rightfully so. Now, where does this go from here? The question will remain, will the Department of Justice release all the information? Will a judge in New York release the information? Will the CIA release the information? And will foreign governments release their information? Or will this continue after this vote today be a cover-up? A cover-up of the rich, powerful elites that bond together in sex and human trafficking abuse and all types of global business that enriches them but never serves Americans.
Good to be with you. I'm Katie Tur. Moments ago, the House almost unanimously passed the Epstein Files Transparency Act, forcing the Justice Department to release records related to Jeffrey Epstein. Republicans' support for the bill went from 4 to 216. The sole no vote came from Republican Congressman Clay Higgins of Louisiana, just one no vote. He posted on X that he was, quote, a no on this bill from the beginning, although he did also say that he supports the House oversight investigation. That being said, the measure now heads to the Senate, and if it does pass there, President Trump has promised to sign it. Joining us now, MS Now senior congressional reporter and host of Way Too Early, Ali Vitale, Democratic strategist, pollster, and MS Now political analyst, Cornell Belcher, former press secretary to Speakers John Boehner and Paul Ryan, and MS Now political analyst, Brendan Buck, and host of the Tara Palmieri Show podcast and author of The Red Letter on Substack, Tara Palmieri. Ali, so 427-1 heads to the Senate now. A moment ago, Senator Boxer told me that the only real way to get this to the floor is for the Majority Leader, John Thune, to bring it to the floor, unless it's unanimous consent. But it's really up to him. Is that going to happen?
Yeah, that's my understanding as well, Katie. And I'm really glad that you asked her, because if it's anyone who would know the sleights of hand that senators can use, it's a former senator. My understanding of the way that this is likely to go forward is we're going to see Senator Schumer, and I believe we're right at 3 o'clock, so the Senate floor is opening. We'll see Senator Schumer at some point go to the floor and say that he wants to ask unanimous consent to get onto this bill or to pass it outright. There's a few different ways that they can use that UC privilege. But of course, they would need all unanimous consent to do that. And so the Senate magic might work on this one, or it might not. The person that we're really waiting to hear from is the Majority Leader, John Thune, because he holds the keys to where this car ultimately goes next. The difference in the backdrop from when we came into this story over the weekend is that the White House has now blessed this effort. However reluctantly, they've seen the writing on the wall, and you and I have talked over the course of the last hour about why they were late to this, but ultimately it changes the landscape of what the Senate could do, because now they are doing it with the White House's reluctant blessing. And so there are some senators on the other side of the aisle that have consistently helped to keep the Epstein story alive. I'm thinking, for example, of Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana, big day for a state that I called home for a few years, talking about the need for transparency on Epstein. He's done this when he had Kash Patel, the head of the FBI, in front of the Judiciary Committee. He's done it when he's had Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, in front of the Judiciary Committee on which he sits. In all of those cases, he has asked them about what they have on the Epstein case and what they can release, urging them repeatedly that they are going to have to do more than what they've already done to quell the questions that people rightly have, including him, about this issue. So now he is one of those people that I am going to be looking towards to see if he is someone that wants to help this effort along. You know, I asked Thomas Massie, as our team did this morning, what Republicans he's talked to in the Senate who could be helping on this effort. There are certainly Democrats who want to be a part of this, but he said he's spoken to one Republican senator that wants to co-sponsor, potentially a second that would be another co-sponsor on this legislation, try to help it to get to the floor. We don't have those names quite yet. That's going to be an important part of this equation. But again, all of this really starts and stops. I've been asking his office what the plan is here. I'll come back to you, obviously, as soon as we hear from him or I hear from them.
Yeah, we're going to wait and see. Again, as you said, this Senate floor opens right about now. Brendan Buck, how significant is this vote?
Quite. It puts a ton of pressure on the Senate. And I do think that it is going to pass relatively quickly over there. Who's going to stand in the way of it at this point? It would not surprise me if they're able to get unanimous consent on something like this. I believe Democrats have tried to bring it up before, and then a senator has come in and objected, which is not uncommon. But at this point, I don't know who would object if Chuck Schumer says, I ask unanimous consent to pass the bill. There may be a bit of a quirk today because I don't know that the bill from the House has been transmitted to the Senate quite yet. That usually takes a few hours or a day. But at this point, if somebody asks for unanimous consent, I don't know who's going to deny it. The only reason they might deny it is if senators actually now want to go on the record voting in favor of it. There have been a lot of, particularly in the House, a lot of members who have been itching to show somehow, some way that they're in support of transparency here. You remember Mike Johnson actually had a vote in the House to sort of bless the House oversight investigation. That was totally unnecessary. You don't need a House vote for a committee to do something, but it just showed you there were a lot of House members who wanted to vote that they wanted to do something on here. I imagine there are a lot of senators who want to be able to have an affirmative vote rather than a unanimous consent where nobody actually, raises their hand and says how they're voting. So I do think there's going to be action. It's probably just a matter of how quickly. It could be a matter of hours, could be a matter of days, but I expect this will end up on the president's desk. But then Marjorie Taylor Greene asks the right question. How much is this actually going to change what DOJ does? There's plenty of exceptions to this that they could cite and not release anything. So maybe this would be a bunch of movement, but not a lot of results for disclosure.
Yeah, and the Senate had to be watching how Republican lawmakers in the House succumbed to the pressure. You had Speaker Johnson saying he wasn't going to do anything. He succumbed to the pressure. James Comer as well, chair of House Oversight, who was doing this investigation, getting these documents and arguably getting more than DOJ was giving. He was not a yes on this until he was a yes on this because of all the pressure. But most notably, you had Troy Nehls, who tweeted that he was a hard no on releasing the Epstein files. He was overwhelmingly ratioed. That's when so many people comment negatively toward your tweet that you feel like you're literally being, swallowed alive. He ended up voting yes. And whether that does put a lot of pressure on senators, not just to vote unanimous consent, as you were saying, but to put their names to it as well. On the subject of what exactly we're going to see, Tara, I think that's a really good question, because DOJ could say, oh, we're investigating right now, we can't release all this stuff. Or Bloomberg had been reporting that they were already redacting stuff back in August. They had FOIA'd a request and saw that there were redactions of the president's name and the president's information already in the Epstein files. So what exactly are we going to see? And that does just raise the perennial question here, which is, why is Donald Trump so uncomfortable with this? I'm not sure if you saw around 1 o'clock today when he was in the Oval Office with MBS, Mary Bruce of ABC asked him a simple question, asked it in a perfectly polite way. Why don't you just release the Epstein files yourself? Because he has the authority to do it. He doesn't need Congress's help. And instead of answering her question, he went on a multi-minute diatribe about how he doesn't like her and how disgusting she is and how he doesn't like ABC. It was a personal attack. It made not a lot of sense. And then he tried to deflect onto the Democrats, never answered the question about why he doesn't just release the files. Why is he so uncomfortable with this?
Well, first of all, I've worked with Mary Bruce at ABC, and she is a stellar reporter and does not deserve that kind of abuse for asking questions, which are
because there's pictures of him raping children.
Office is representing their constituent, representing the people. That is what the press does when they ask those questions. So he's actually attacking his own constituents when he attacks members of the press. Why is he afraid of the Epstein files? That is, I think, the question that has been lingering over this all along. It's extremely disturbing to me to learn that they are already redacting these documents. I always thought that there would be strategic redactions, even if the files were released. At the end of the day, we have Pam Bondi, who will be overseeing this. She is basically just an avenger for President Trump. She went from saying, I have the Epstein list on my desk, that is something that she told Fox News, to July, a few months later, saying there is no list. There are no third perpetrators in the largest sex trafficking operation in history, and case closed. It's all done. Now they've reopened the case, but to specifically target Democrats. And so I could see them saying, well, we reopened a case. These are sensitive case documents. We can't just hand them over. It's an ongoing investigation, something that President Trump has used in the past in regard to his tax returns. I don't know if you remember that about the audit. He would always say, well, there's an audit. There's an audit. That's why I'm not releasing my tax returns. Could see something similar to that happening. But ultimately, we are at the discretion of a person who has already blatantly lied about this case, Pam Bondi, who takes her orders from President Trump, who has made it very clear he does not want these Epstein files released in their entirety.
Yeah, and you spent a lot of time with Virginia Giuffre. I'm going to just read a little bit about a little of what you wrote about her. You say you saw that fire in her up close. We traveled across the country together, knocking on the doors of people who had worked for Jeffrey Epstein. It took enormous courage to face them, to relive her trauma, not to blame, but to find meaning. She wanted to hear someone say, yes, Virginia, I remember you. I see you now. It may sound naive, but she believed even the smallest act of acknowledgement could help piece her life back together. I think it cannot be overstated what she did to force this issue into the public, to force the House to call a vote on it, to put the President of the United States in a position where, if it gets to his desk, he has said he will say yes to it.
It's incredible. I mean, when you think about the timing, her book coming out just at this time, I am heartbroken because I know that Virginia fought for over a decade to be heard, and for most of that decade to be ignored, for people to be slamming the doors in her face. I saw it up close. I know how hard it was for her when the British press just dragged her through the mud as she showed photographic evidence of herself with Prince Andrew. And for so long, she was dismissed. And now, because of her, and she was one of the first survivors of Jeffrey Epstein to come out publicly and say, this is not right. I am willing to be dragged through the mud until people finally listen to me. And without her, we wouldn't be here right now. And I think she gave permission and she gave strength to her survivor sisters. And I know, I mean, it's so sad that she's even being used as like in these cynical political games. They're using her name, and she can't even be here to explain for herself. But what she did changed the course of history. And the fact that she made it clear that she wanted her book published, whether she was alive or not. I mean, I really believe the words in her book that they made this happen. And if you listen to the podcast, Broken Jeffrey Epstein, and you hear her voice and you hear her interactions with the people that she knew when she was 16, 17 years old under their control, I mean, these are real people. This isn't just some political fight. These are people whose lives were broken from this. And I know that her family has represented her so well, her brother, and her sister-in-law, and they've just been fighting this fight for her. And I know it's a burden for them to carry for her. But again, like, Virginia's a warrior. She's a singular voice that when she was told, go away, she never went away. And she deserves a lot of credit.
She just refused to be quiet. She refused to let it lie. She refused to let people get away with it. And you're right to say that she was a very powerful figure, and she's changing the course of history. And she's also enabled, Cornell, so many other survivors to come out and tell their own story. I think part of the reason...
She's so strong that that Virginia Giuffre, just want to say, man, she's like a Rosa Parks, a real hero, man. That inspiration to women everywhere. That Virginia Giuffre, I wish she was alive to see this day, man. And I hope they do release the files unredacted, undeleted. Someone was saying that the Epstein estate has copies of the files, so therefore, if they're allowed to release everything, they could just release it all.
And they were voting for Donald Trump was because they wanted this stuff released. They wanted these people held accountable. How does the electorate feel today?
Well, I can tell you, she has changed the dynamics, and voters are listening. Look, if you look at Pew Research, the 63% have little or no trust with the administration around this point. In Reuters research, you see 59-10 independent voters disapprove of the president's handling of it. So I'm actually not surprised that so many Republicans are now for releasing this, because I think they're feeling the political tides and winds turn clearly against this, right? And when you're getting these sort of vast majorities of people being unhappy with the way this is being handled, it's not, the typical partisan lines that we can draw around so many issues, Katie. You can't draw around this, because you certainly have both Democrats, independents, but even a considerable percentage of Republicans, right? When you talk about 63% of Americans don't trust the administration with handling of this, you're talking about an awful lot of Republicans too. So this is an issue that really strikes home, even with Republicans who have to go and see other Republicans in their base, and these remarkable, courageous women have put this on a front burner and have moved the public solidly behind them, and the public is outraged by it, and they should be.
Yeah, that's a good point. Cornell Belcher, thank you so much. Tara Palmieri, thank you very much. Brendan Buck, Ali Vitale, appreciate it. Still ahead, we're going to talk about what we might get from DOJ and those redactions that I mentioned with the reporter who FOIA'd DOJ and saw firsthand what was left out. Plus, the Saudi Crown Prince is at the White House, who came to his defense.
It's not so much ethnicity or anything. It's about, I went to college and you didn't. That has become a dividing. It never was in America in politics, that divisive reality. But town versus gown has become a reality of American life. If you didn't go to college and you're sitting at a table with somebody who did, there's a division there, an implication that you voted for.
I mean, listen, I just wanted to say that that's my biggest fear, you know, that they have, because like Howard Lutnick said that he was the greatest blackmailer and they filmed everything. So if they filmed everything, they should have videos of Trump or whoever, you know. But I think Trump's acting so crazy because they must have videos of him, you know.
Larry Summers, the former president of Harvard and Treasury Secretary under Bill Clinton, is stepping back from his public commitments after emails released by the House revealed he maintained a warm correspondence with Jeffrey Epstein as recently as 2019. More than a decade after Epstein pleaded guilty to charges related to soliciting a minor for prostitution. In some exchanges, Summers sought Epstein's advice on a romantic relationship he was pursuing with a woman he described as a mentee. In other messages, Summers weighed in on women's intelligence, the same subject that led to his resignation as Harvard president, and criticized the punishment of men who hit on women in the workplace. Summers is just one of the many individuals from elite circles revealed to be one of Epstein's confidants. Joining us now, MS Now senior legal reporter Lisa Rubin, former U.S. attorney and MS Now legal analyst Joyce Vance, senior investigative reporter at Bloomberg Jason Leopold, and USA Today domestic security correspondent Josh Myers. So, Josh, you really looked into the emails and got a sense of who was saying what the relationships were like. What did you come away? What did you come away with?
Thanks for having me, Katie. Well, I came away with kind of an icky feeling, to be honest. When you see all these people sort of asking Jeffrey Epstein for advice, romantic advice, financial advice, political advice, and this is years and years after his problems in Florida, where he was arrested, charged, and convicted in a sex trafficking case. And you have Larry Summers, who was the former Treasury Secretary and the former president of Harvard, asking him for dating advice, talking about a woman who is his mentee, as you mentioned, and what to do about them. Another guy who was a department store scion of a department store was actually asking him for advice. And both of these men, by the way, were asking for advice about women they were dating that were not their wives at the time. So I'm not sure why they were going to Epstein for that. But, to me, I think one of the more significant things that we found in the emails was some of the things that Epstein said, including about Donald Trump. He said, and two of these real exchanges that jumped out at me were in 2018. There was one when they were talking about Trump's hush money case in New York, where he was on trial for basically trying to silence two women who wanted to come forward before the 2016 election with allegations of having an affair with him. And he said, I know how dirty Donald is. And he said, nobody really understands how important it is to have your fixer flip on you. And he was talking about Michael Cohen, who had been Trump's longtime fixer, who had just agreed to plead guilty to that. But then in December of that year, after the Miami Herald had a explosive series of reports about Trump and Alex Acosta about Epstein and Alex Acosta and how he got a very lenient deal back in 2008. Epstein said very cryptically, it's weird that everybody's talking about Trump because I am the one who can take him down. And we didn't see anything in there that was a response to that. We don't know what led to that and what followed that, but it is a very interesting thing for Jeffrey Epstein to say about the president of the United States.
It's interesting on Trump. There's still so many questions about what exactly Epstein had on him, the motivations were, what their relationship was, why their relationship fell apart. That's still very much still up in the air. What I'm struck by is just just the preponderance of evidence, the massive amount of information we have that seems to show that everybody in Epstein's orbit knew how much he liked women and knew how much he liked young women. In the birthday book, there are, uncomfortable depictions or cartoons, drawings of young girls getting massages from Jeffrey Epstein, or girls that were little girls growing up to get massages from Jeffrey Epstein. That's weird. And in the emails, you see even women talking about or alluding to it, giving him advice. You should read Lolita, or here's this other book, also is a little bit like Lolita. You might enjoy it. It's just so strange and so unsettling.
Mm-hmm. It is. I mean, and I think that's one thing that we really took away from these was that, and I think some of it is money. You had the emails from Larry Summers' wife, who was a professor at Harvard, who seemed to be familiar with all of this, but she was also asking for $500,000 for her department at Harvard so she could continue to try to make TV shows about poetry. So, I don't know what the motivations are there, but it does seem like there was this tremendous familiarity with it. A lot of these people were going to Epstein's Island where a lot of this occurred. And one of the emails that Epstein sent himself, he goes into like a long sort of soliloquy about all the things that were happening at the island and in his house in Manhattan and in Florida, and all the people that were around him that knew about it. So, it all really makes me wonder what is in the files that the Justice Department is withholding, and why Trump is fighting so hard to keep them away. It raises a lot of questions.
Let's talk about the Justice Department and the files. Jason, I cited your reporting yesterday. I cited it again today. This is about redactions. What did you find?
Thanks, Katie. So this was during reporting I had been pursuing earlier this year. And basically when the Justice Department, Pam Bondi and Kash Patel, said that they would start reviewing these files. There was a team of about 1,000 FBI agents and personnel, including, importantly, FBI personnel from the Freedom of Information Act office, the Information and Dissemination section at FBI. And as they all, brought everyone together to start reviewing what made up the Epstein files, and we know now from the Justice Department that they amassed about 300 gigabytes of documents and videos and audio recordings. What I found out from through my reporting with speaking to sources was that Trump's name and the names of other prominent public figures were redacted. And they redacted it at the time. This was prior to the announcement in July that these records would not be released. The Epstein files would not be released after the Justice Department and FBI released a joint statement. And the reason was they redacted for privacy reasons, because these, this information or the names of people were found in files that were considered law enforcement records, and they were no one was charged. So it was, in a sense, protecting individuals from embarrassment. There's a long history about that as it relates to just the Freedom of Information Act when you get documents. But here in this case, obviously, it's, now the president of the United States, the argument was, or the argument is, that at the time that the FBI collected these records, Donald Trump was a private citizen. So that is, what I found during the course of my reporting. I think what will be interesting is if, in fact, these documents, these Epstein files are released, will they continue to be, those redactions, will they continue to be in place? I mean, one thing to note is that we already know that there was an FBI team of agents from New York and Washington and other personnel who have already reviewed these records. I mean, they spent months reviewing these records, sleeping on desks, pulling all-nighters in two large warehouses in Virginia. So they've already worked through it. So if, in fact, they're ready for release, there should be no delay. So obviously that remains to be seen.
That is a really good point. Joyce, weigh in on this.
Well, I think what we all know is coming at this point is that this new investigation that Donald Trump ordered Pam Bondi to open will be used as a roadblock to turning over information to Congress. You know, typically, if Congress asks for information from the Justice Department about an ongoing criminal case, the Justice Department uses a provision of the statute that permits it to defer that turnover until the criminal case has been concluded. And that's really the reason that these files could not have been released before October, when the Supreme Court put the end to it by saying that they wouldn't hear Ghislaine Maxwell's appeal. That was the formal end of prosecutions in this field. Of course, Pam Bondi had said in July that there was no new evidence that merited prosecution of any third parties who hadn't been charged yet. So we knew, or at least we thought we knew, that no additional charges would be coming. So by ordering his attorney general to open this new case, a thinly veiled political move, because he only ordered her to open as to Democrats, and the president has repeatedly said that this is a Democrat problem, despite the appearance of names of others from his own party, including himself, in those files. This is what's coming. The next effort will be to stonewall by refusing to turn anything over to Congress while that investigation is pending.
All right. Lisa, I want to kind of make a left turn here for a second and talk about the other story that we mentioned at the very start of the show at 2 p.m., but I didn't have a chance to get to you on, and this is Texas redistricting. This is very much going to be about 2026. We might have Epstein be about 2026, but this as well. The state of Texas tried to redraw the maps, add 5 more seats, and now a federal judge has said, no, you can't.
3 of them, actually. So
3.
In redistricting cases, oftentimes the law requires that they are heard initially by a 3-judge panel, and that's what happened here. And they are saying that the redistricting effort that Texas undertook here was done in a way that wasn't just partisan, it was overtly racial in its gerrymandering, such that the plaintiffs who sued, and there were multiple groups of them, are entitled to a preliminary injunction that blocks the use of those maps for the 2026 election and requires Texas to go back to their 2021 maps. They're saying that having a legislatively drawn map is preferable to courts drawing the map and getting involved in that themselves. They recognize time is of the essence. And usually when you have an election right around the corner, a Supreme Court case called Purcell sort of begs that courts sort of back off and not get involved. And they say here, the evidence of the partisan and racial gerrymandering was so obvious and flagrant that despite that Supreme Court case cautioning courts not to get involved, they had to override it.
That's interesting. So I think it's December 7th or December 8th that lawmakers have to file for their candidacy, which means there's only a few weeks for this court to bring it up to, or for Texas to appeal this to the Supreme Court.
That's right.
The Supreme Court would need to weigh in before then. What is the likelihood of that happening?
I think the likelihood of it happening is high. At least the court, may determine and say that they're not going to take it, in which case the court's decision, the lower court's decision today, would stay in place. But I think it's more likely that they'll use it as an opportunity to say whether or not all of these redistricting attempts that are happening at DOJ's invitation expressly all over the country should happen now or not. It's not typical for mid-decade redistricting to happen, and there's a reason why.
Yeah, the Supreme Court got involved pretty quickly when we were talking about Colorado tried to keep Trump off the ballot, and the Supreme Court got involved and said, no, you can't. You got to put him on the ballot. That was back ahead of the 2024 election. All right. Everybody, thank you so much. Jason Leopold, thank you for joining us. I'm glad I got to talk to you about your reporting, not just cite it. Josh Meyer, you too, thank you. Joyce Vance, Lisa Rubin. Still ahead, quote, a lot of people did not like him. That is what the president said, seemingly justifying Jamal Khashoggi's murder, or at least diminishing it during today's meeting with the Saudi Crown Prince in the Oval Office.
Patriots, come forward. Your country demands your services.
These are the times that tried men's souls.
Our cause is the cause of all mankind.
they said you've got your whole life ahead of you? At United Healthcare, we say you still do. Whatever comes next, you can count on United Healthcare to be there with reliable Medicare coverage.
Gain Tango Scent Boosters. With 2 irresistible scents coming together, you can't help but dance. Oh wow, that's fresh. Gain Tango Scent Boosters. More scent, more joy.
Oh, what if there's damages and expensive? It's an
Paul? Hey, Carfox. Are you hiding from used car shopping?
No. Yes.
Okay. Just because nearly half of all used cars have been in an accident doesn't mean you have to overpay.
Really?
Take my word for it. It doesn't have to be scary.
Okay. Show me, Carfox.
Knowing how a car's accident history impacts price means you don't have to overpay.
Cool. Wait, how did you get in here exactly?
No fear. Just Fox. Say show me at Carfax.com.
Seriously, how'd you get in here?
Tired of body pain holding you back? Try Aleve for longer-lasting pain relief. Unlike Tylenol and Advil, just 1 dose of Aleve provides up to 12 hours of relief from all types of body pain. Try Aleve.
With OmniWatch, you get the internet you remember. The one where you and your family could go online and laugh at stuff without someone stealing your identity. Starting at just $7 a month, you get up to $2 million in identity theft insurance. Save up to 35% on an annual plan today.
We wish you a whole turkey, we wish you a whole ham, we wish you all the sides and fixings, and it's all to go.
I guess you won't get to burn the turkey this year.
Funny.
And it's all to go.
Oh no! Our water line broke. It could cost a fortune to get a contractor to come fix it, and it's not covered by homeowners insurance.
That's why you should have HomeServe.
It's Tom Rusin, CEO of HomeServe.
When your water line breaks, HomeServe sends a qualified contractor to fix it and pays for the covered repairs.
With HomeServe, the American dream of owning a home doesn't need to be a nightmare.
Plans from HomeServe start at just $4.99 a month.
Call 1-888-246-2612 or visit homeserve.com.
I have a structured settlement and I... Call J.G. Wentworth, 877 cash now.
I am an annuity, but I need cash now.
Call J.G. Wentworth, 877 cash now.
It's your money. Use it when you need it.
Call J.G. Wentworth, 877.
Call 877 cash now to get a $100 gift card for a free quote.
Did not take long, but we now have an update out of the Senate. Back with us, MS Now senior congressional reporter Ali Vitale. Ali, what has John Thune said?
So I promised you I would get you an answer, and we have it now, at least the beginnings of one, that Senator Thune says he thinks this is going to move fairly quickly through the Senate. It's not clear what mechanism he means for it to move through, though in the last few minutes we did see Leader Schumer do what we expected him to do, which was ask for unanimous consent to move forward into a vote on the bill. Something that Senate Democrats have wanted to see is Republican senators put their name on the line of whether they are voting yes or no on releasing the Epstein files. If unanimous consent, the way that Schumer is asking for it, actually worked out, it would mean that they were saying all 100 senators agreed to do a vote, and that would quicken the process a little bit. But what Leader Thune is saying here is that not only does he think this is going to move fairly quickly, again, his words, through the Senate, he noted the fact that the president said he wanted to sign it. That, of course, lends to the idea of the energy that's moving behind this bill now. But he also said that something the speaker had asked for, which was amendments or changes around the way that privacy was protected in this bill, that Thune doesn't see the need to do any such amendments. And you started your 2 p.m. hour talking with colleagues of ours about why opening an amendment process could get into a really thorny place really quickly. It doesn't sound like Senator Thune is going to open that up at all. He said, yeah, I understand the speaker might want those changes, but when you've got a vote margin of 427 to 1, it doesn't really seem like things need to be amended. So we'll keep you posted on the specific timing, but fairly quickly could mean that we see them move on this tonight, tomorrow. We'll ultimately see what the Senate decides.
Ali Vitale, good to have you. Really feel lucky that you We're able to stay up a little late for us today. Appreciate it. Earlier today, President Trump, she gets up at like 3 a.m., so staying up till 3 p.m. is a lot. Earlier today, President Trump defended Saudi Arabian Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman during his visit to the White House.
Your Royal Highness, the U.S. intelligence concluded that you orchestrated the brutal murder of a journalist. 9/11 families are furious that you are here in the Oval Office. Why should Americans trust you? And the same to you, Mr. President.
Now, who are you with?
I'm with ABC News, sir.
You're with who?
ABC News, sir.
Fake news. ABC fake news. One of the worst. As far as this gentleman is concerned, he's done a phenomenal job. You're mentioning somebody that was extremely controversial. A lot of people didn't like that gentleman that you're talking about. Whether you like him or didn't like him, things happen. But he knew nothing about it. And we can leave it at that. You don't have to embarrass our guest by asking a question like that.
Things happen, I guess. The murder of Washington Post journalist Jamal Khashoggi hung over the Crown Prince's elaborate welcome, complete with a military display. It is the Crown Prince's first visit to Washington since that 2018 killing. He was dismembered. A murder that U.S. intelligence concluded was personally approved by bin Salman, despite his denials. Marco Rubio said the same, by the way. Joining us now, MS Now senior White House reporter Vaughn Hilliard and senior fellow at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace and former Arab-Israeli negotiator at the State Department, Aaron David Miller. Vaughn, am I supposed to take away from that because Jamal Khashoggi was controversial and not liked, that it makes it okay that he was dismembered?
The president's words seem to all but suggest that. This is somebody who I think it's important. The Office of the Director of National Intelligence, which is the body that encompasses the 18 U.S. intelligence agencies and organizations, was very specific in 2021 in its report in saying that their assessment was that the Crown Prince, quote, approved an operation in Istanbul, Turkey to capture or kill Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi. And yet what you heard here 4 years later is the President of the United States sitting there alongside him saying that he did not order the killing and instead said that he wished that his ballroom over at the East Wing was complete tonight so that he could host him for a dinner and a celebration there. And I think that it's important that we say in the context of all of this, well, past administrations, including the Biden administration, sought to continue to open up important diplomatic channels with this regional partner in the Middle East, that this president has not divested from the Trump organization his businesses, which continues to profit in real time off of its investments from the Saudi-backed entities, including just yesterday, a new project, a new hotel in the Maldives that is in partnership with this real estate group backed by the Saudi government. Just earlier this year, 2 other hotel projects were also announced. One specifically in Saudi Arabia was announced during the 2024 campaign. Of course, that's on top of the $2 billion that the Saudi Sovereign Wealth Fund invested in Jared Kushner's investment firm back in 2021. The president continues to hold at Trump golf entity resorts, clubs, the Live Golf tournaments. And so for the president of the United States, he has a clear financial interest in maintaining this relationship with the Saudi Crown Prince, who he noted is going to eventually be the king. He's just 40 years old, and that for he and his family, that this is an important relationship to maintain. And Jamal Khashoggi, who was a legal permanent resident of the United States in Virginia.
I'm not falling for Donald Trump's "I now want full transparency on the Epstein files." I said, I believe him, but it's only because he realized it's going to pass. Republicans are going to vote in the House, almost certainly, to release the files, and Trump can't be seen as trying to block that when Republicans have decided they're going to try to pass it.
Mr. President, why wait for Congress to release the Epstein files? Why not just do it now?
You know, it's not the question that I mind, it's your attitude. I think you are a terrible reporter. It's the way you ask these questions. You start off with a man who's highly respected, asking him a horrible insubordinate and just a terrible question. And you could even ask that same exact question nicely. You're all psyched up. Somebody psychs you over at ABC. They're going to psych it. You're a terrible person and a terrible reporter. You just keep going on the Epstein files. And what the Epstein is a Democrat hoax to try and get me not to be able to talk about the $21 trillion that I talked about today. It's a hoax. And people are wise to your hoax. And ABC's, your company, your crappy company, is one of the perpetrators. And I'll tell you something. I think the license should be taken away from ABC because your news is so fake and it's so wrong. And we have a great commissioner, the chairman, who should look at that because I think.
Mr. President, what did Jeffrey Epstein mean in his emails when he said you knew about the girls?
I know nothing about that. They would have announced that a long time ago. It's really what did he mean when he spent all the time with Bill Clinton, with the president of Harvard, you know, that is Summers, Larry Summers, whatever his name is, and all of the other people that he spent time with. Jeffrey Epstein and I had a very bad relationship for many years, but he also saw a strike because I was president. So he dictated a couple of memos to himself, give me a break. You're going to find out what did he know with respect to Bill Clinton, with respect to the head of Harvard, with respect to all of those people that he knew, including J.P. Morgan Chase.
Sir,
Yeah,
if
Jennifer,
there's
go
nothing
ahead, go ahead.
incriminating in the file, sir, why acting as a...
Quiet, begin.
On Venezuela, sir, you've had a lot of meetings on Venezuela. I know you can't tell. What did Jeffrey Epstein mean in his emails when he said you knew about the girls?
I know nothing about that. They would have announced that a long time ago. It's really what did he mean when he spent all the time with Bill Clinton, with the president of Harvard, you know, that is Summers, Larry Summers, whatever his name is, and all of the other people that he spent time with. Jeffrey Epstein and I had a very bad relationship for many years, but he also saw a strike because I was president. So he dictated a couple of memos to himself, give me a break. You're going to find out what did he know with respect to Bill Clinton, with respect to the head of Harvard, with respect to all of those people that he knew, including J.P. Morgan Chase.
Sir,
Yeah,
if
Jennifer,
there's
go
nothing
ahead, go ahead.
incriminating in the file, sir, why acting as a...
Quiet, begin.
On Venezuela, sir, you've had a lot of meetings on Venezuela. I know you...
Mr. President,
A tense exchange that President Trump had with the press aboard Air Force.
Mr. President,
What did Jeffrey Epstein mean in his emails when he said you knew about the girls?
I know nothing about the head of Harvard, with respect to all of those people that he knew, including J.P. Morgan Chase.
Sir,
Yeah,
if
Jennifer,
there's
go
nothing
ahead, go ahead.
incriminating in the file, sir, why acting as a...
Quiet, begin.
On Venezuela, sir, you've had a lot of meetings on Venezuela. Sir,
Yeah,
if
Jennifer,
there's
go
nothing
ahead, go ahead.
incriminating in the file, sir, why acting as a...
Quiet, begin.
On Venezuela, sir, you've had a lot of meetings on Venezuela.
Relationship for many years.
Incriminating in the file, sir,
We are gardeners.
We are farmers. Bum, 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 bum.
A tense exchange that President Trump had with the press aboard Air Force One is now going viral. It stems from the clip.
Yeah,
if there's
Jennifer, go
nothing
ahead, go ahead.
incriminating in the file, sir, why acting as a...
Quiet, begin.
That reporter was Catherine Lucy from Blue.
Quiet, begin.
Why acting as a...
Quiet, begin. Quiet, begin.
Mr. President, why wait for Congress to release the Epstein files? Why not just do it now?
You know, it's not the question that I mind, it's your attitude. I think you are a terrible reporter. It's the way you ask these questions. You start off with a man who's highly respected, asking him a horrible, insubordinate, and just a terrible question. And you could even ask that same exact question nicely. You're all
You're a teen rapist, Donald. Donald, you're a teen fucking rapist. You rape fucking kids. Donald Trump, you rape fucking kids. They have videos of you raping kids, you fucking dirtball.
Somebody psychs you over at ABC, they're going to psych it. You're a terrible person and a terrible reporter. As far as the Epstein files is, I have nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. I threw him out of my club many years ago.
You're a fucking liar. A fucking liar. You were best friends with him for 15 fucking years. Even before you linked up with Jeffrey Epstein, you were raping kids with John Casablancas. You pedophile fucker. Fuck you. You rapist, bigot, son of a bitch. Fuck you.
Because I thought he was a pervert. And I guess I turned out to be right. But you know who does have? Bill Clinton, Larry Summers, who ran Harvard, was with him.
That's right, you allowed a sick fucking pervert to run rampant in Mar-a-Lago, even if you want to believe that this sick fucking bigoted Archie Bunker looking fuck who puts makeup on for fucking 90 minutes every fucking day, even if you want to believe that he's not a pedophile, bigot, rapist, nepo baby, he allowed minors to be raped and sex trafficked out of his sex resort, Mar-a-Lago. Would you send your 13-year-old to Mar-a-Lago with this bigoted, rapist, pedophile asshole? Answer the fucking question, you pedophile, bigot, lying bastard.
Every single night, every single weekend, they lived together. They went to his island many times. I never did.
You lying son of a bitch. You went more than Clinton. We already know you went more than Clinton. Let's release the files. You were there many a times. Fucking Ghislaine Maxwell's like, oh, no. Oh, he was never at the house. He was never on the couch. He was never in the swimming pool. He was never bending over girls the fucking sink that were 14 years old. No, I never seen him do any wrongdoing. Could you please pardon me, Mr. Trump, you lying piece of fucking shit, lying pedophile asshole, nepo baby, suing people with your daddy's fucking money.
Andrew Weissman, I hear. All these guys were friends of his. You don't even talk about those people. You just keep going on the Epstein files. And what the Epstein is,
because we keep going on about Epstein and we keep going about you because you were the one that was best friends with Jeffrey Epstein for 15 years. You're the one that called Jeffrey Epstein a terrific swell guy who happens to like him a little young. Wink, wink, wink. You're the one trying to give Ghislaine Maxwell a pardon and send her to a country club to get away with your pedophilia rape so she doesn't come out and say, yeah, me and Trump raped many a girls together, you pedophile fucking sick fuck. You're the one that called him a best swell guy who happens to like him a little young. You're the one that was best friends. You're the one that invited him to your fucking wedding. You're the one that called your daughter a hot piece of ass. You're the one that looked at the girl on the escalator going up the stairs. It's like, oh, I can't wait to hit that. You're the one who said, I just grab women by the pussy and there's nothing they could do about it because I'm too fucking powerful. You know you're a rapist. That's why you're fucking bright red in the fucking face. And now you're entertaining the 911 because you could build your fucking golf courses, you fucking piece of fucking shit. You want to sit there and complain about Hunter Biden and his $45,000 a year job, and you're profiting billions of fucking dollars, you fava bean fucking salesman, hoaxster. Everything about you is a fucking hoax. Your fucking peace deal was a fucking hoax. They were killing people overnight. The second your fucking peace deal overnight, 100 people were killed, you fucking lying piece of dirt shit.
This is a Democrat hoax to try and get me not to be able to talk about the 21.
It's not a democratic hoax. It's to try to get pedophilia to stop, to try to get billionaires to stop buying the fucking judicial system, to try to put an end to pedophilia. You want to sit there and take it personally because you know you're in the files, because you know you're a fucking teen rapist. You know you're fucking guilty. We don't know anything about what's in the files. Why are you acting so guilty, you fucking rapist, pedophile piece of shit?
$1 trillion that I talked about today.
Yeah, you're fucking lying and just making up fucking numbers. My fucking grocery prices are higher. I have fucking my grocery prices. My chips used to be $2.99 just a few months ago when Biden was president. My chips were $2.99. Guess what? They're $7.99 now. You asshole, racist, pedophile, piece of fucking dog shit. You've never been to a grocery store in your fucking life, Donald fucking Trump. My Reese's Cups used to be $2, now they're $3.50. Yeah, it's $35 a month. It used to be $20 a month. That's $15 that I can't go out with once a month anymore, thanks to you, you piece of shit.
It's a hoax. Now, I just
You're
got
a
a little
hoax, and everything out of your fucking mouth is
insubordinate
a fucking hoax.
and just a terrible question. And
no,
you could
why
even
don't
ask
you
that
just
same
release the Epstein files? Why don't you just release the Epstein files? Why don't you just release the Epstein files? Why don't you just release the Epstein files? Covering up your fucking micro wiener, you fucking racist, bigoted piece of shit!
I have nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. I threw him out of my club many years ago because I thought he was a sick pervert. But I guess I turned out to be right. But you know who does have? Bill Clinton. Larry Summers, who ran Harvard, was with him every single night, every single weekend. They lived together. They went to his island many times. I never did. Andrew Weissman, I hear. All these guys were friends of his. You don't even talk about those people. You just keep going on the Epstein files. And what the Epstein is...
Why are you taking it so personally, Donald? Why are you taking it so personally, Donald? What, do they have videos of you raping kids or something?
This is a Democrat hoax to try and get me not to be able to talk about the $21 trillion that I talked about.
Why are you taking it personally, Donald?
Now, I just got a little report, and I put it in my pocket, of all the money that he's given to Democrats. He gave me none, zero, no money to me. But he gave money to Democrats.
Yeah. How much money did you give to him, Donald? How much money did you give to Epstein? How many times did you buy 14-year-olds from Epstein? Which 14-year-old was... Which 14-year-old was in the other room when Mary Farber was visiting you? Which 16-year-old was Epstein selling to you when Mary Farber was in the other room? What was the name of the 16-year-old you were raping in the other room with Mary Farber? Okay, what was the name of the girl you were raping in the other room with Mary Farber? Huh? No, answer the fucking question. What was the name of the girl you raped in the other room of Mary Farber? No, I'm not asking about the economy, asshole. I'm not asking about Saudi Arabia. I'm asking what was the name of the girl you raped in the other room? No, what was the name of the girl in the room, the 16-year-old, when Mary Farber visited you and they said, no, there's a girl in the other room for you? What was the name of that girl? What was the name of the girl? It's not about me and my reporting. It's about you and what was the name of the girl? All right, let's switch gears. Something more lighthearted. You ready?
A bunch of cheese cake, which needed whipped cream. Oops, you're having a party. Get more than you thought you could.
Let's see the top of the hour here, man. Yeah, he can't answer the question. All he could do is, oh, this and that. Answer the fucking question. Why can't he just answer the fucking question? You're a terrible person. Oh, I hate ABC is horrible and awful. I'm making trillions of dollars. We've got the king of Saudi Arabia here, and you won. Oh, what a terrible. You're a pedophile, Don. You're a fucking pedo rapist. You rape kids. Kash Patel was supposed to fight on behalf of protecting children. He's writing children's books and bringing kids closer to a pedophile. And everything Kash Patel said that he was against using the airplanes and shit, he's like, I don't give a fuck, dude. Use all the airplanes you fucking want. I could give a fuck less. But he's the one ranting on and on and on about, and now he's using airplanes just like he ranted against. Like, these people are unbelievable, man. He was ranting against using airplanes, and then he's ignoring pedophilia and using airplanes. And he was supposed to be against pedophilia and against using airplanes. Now he's hiding pedophilia and using airplanes for dates. Doing everything that he said he was against.
That your position has changed on the Epstein files, and I'm grateful that you have pledged to sign this bill. I can't help to be skeptical of what the agenda is. So,
what's the
with
agenda?
that
They're
being
trying
said,
to scrub his name,
I
and
want
they
to relay
figure as
this
long as they
message to
could
you.
blame all the Democrats and he can fucking skate away
traumatized. I am not
cloud
stupid.
Of smoke.
I am traumatized. I am not stupid. You have put us through so much stress, the lockdowns, the halt of these procedures that were supposed to have happened 50 days ago. The Adalita Grijalva who waited to get sworn in,
the last fucking
and then get
days.
upset when your own party goes against
Starving
you because what is being done is wrong.
Americans
It's not
with
right.
their SNAP benefits that they don't
For
have
your own
food for a few
self-serving
days.
purposes, this
10
is
million
America.
Marines without food.
This is land of the free.
So you don't have to admit
Land of
you're
the
a
free. In
pedophile,
1863, we have a woman on top of the Capitol building represent freedom. I do not feel free today.
Yeah, Donald wants to change
That
the
is gonna
fucking
do it for
statue
me
and
today.
put a
Deadline
big
White
picture
House
of
starts
himself
right
on
now.
top of the fucking building, dude.
Hi there, everyone. It's 4 o'clock in New York. A near unanimous vote in the end. No amount of arm twisting by Donald Trump or threats that he lobbed on Truth Social or gaslighting people by saying the Epstein case is some sort of hoax by Democrats managed to stop or slow
Everything
the
Trump
passage of
says is a
legislation
hoax.
to release
He's
the
the
Epstein
hoax.
files. It passed in the House of
Everything Trump says is the hoax.
Democrats turned around to applaud the survivors of Jeffrey Epstein, who shouted back at everyone, "Thank you." It was an intense lobbying effort by those survivors that helped drive overwhelming public support for the legislation, a crucial factor in the passage of today's vote. At a press conference this morning, the survivors reiterated their calls for transparency and insisted that partisan politics should have nothing to do with this. Here's Haley Robson with a message for Donald Trump.
To the President of the United States of America, who is not here today, I want to send a clear message to you. While I do understand that your position has changed on the Epstein files, and I'm grateful that you have pledged to sign this bill.
This holiday, Verizon's got the craziest deal
what the
ever
agenda
with
is.
iPhone 17, iPad, and Apple Watch. All on them. But no getting it if you're naughty. You just...
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the UPMC Rooney Southside Complex here as the Steelers get ready for a big game on the road this week at Chicago. The Bears 7-3 after a win in Minnesota 1917. The Steelers with a nice win here against the Bengals got a little revenge 34-12. Mason Rudolph came in after the injury to Aaron Rodgers, did very well, and that defense took the ball away twice and did a good job shutting down Chase and Higgins. A whole new test this week against the Bears. Mike Tomlin is ready to speak about it. All right. We get up there test shortly. this week against the Bears. Mike Tomlin but as I said, ready the to speak Steelers about coming off that win and some big plays in it. When I think about that game, I always think about Darnell Washington more than anything else. Rumbling down the field, stumbling, bumbling over everybody. Three guys who certainly made business decisions to get out of the way, but that's the impact he's had on the Pittsburgh Steelers. And that was a big play in that game. Also, third down conversions as the Steelers came up with two of them in the first drive of the second half, en route to some points there to put that game away. All right, let's go upstairs now. Mike Tomlin is ready to address the media.
Good afternoon. As always, I'll start with a quick assessment of our last performance. I just thought as the game went on, our fight was evident. We made more plays in all three phases the deeper we got into the game. And that's what you want to see and feel from a group that's fighting. And I felt it. Certainly, I thought it was significant. There was less speculation from a defensive perspective of what we might get from Flacco and company. The first time we played those guys, we had a 1 week body of work to study, and it wasn't a complete week. And so there was more speculation about how Joe would alter their attack, how the lens through which he would see it, the things that they would do to get the ball, obviously, to their two top playmakers. And, you know, as we stood in here last week, we said there was less speculation there, although they had been highly successful. I think Joe had thrown for over 400 yards the week prior to our game. There was less speculation there. We could anchor down and make some hardcore decisions about how to allocate our schematic resources and our talent. I thought the guys did a nice job absorbing the plan and executing the plan. In game, certainly we had some challenges, and guys continually step up for us. Two guys in the secondary, certainly worth mentioning, are Kyle Duggar and James Pierre, but I think we also talked about those guys a week ago. From an offensive perspective, it's good when you absorb some attrition and the ball keeps rolling. Can't say enough about Mason Rudolph. Although we're used to it, it's still appreciated. He's proven over his time here that he's capable of coming in and playing winning football for us, and that's no small task. When you're preparing during the course of a week as a backup, you have a limited number of reps. Usually the guts of the plan are geared toward the specific talents of the starters, and so you may get some reps, but it might not be quote-unquote plays that are, you know, perfectly in your wheelhouse. He's always found a way to manage those challenges, to remain confident, for that confidence to ooze out of him and be a catalyst for a collective performance. And we got that. We certainly got quality efforts from Kenny Gainwell as well. Once Jalen was limited in the game, can't say enough about Kenny. Kenny does a lot of things well for us. I always refer to him as a football player first and a running back second. He's good in the running game. He's good in the passing game. He returns kicks for us. He covers kicks. He had a kickoff tackle, I think, on Sunday as a reflection of that versatility.
Want a front row seat to see exactly what areas of the stock market my team is moving money into this week? Charles Payne here. For the very first time, I'd like to invite you to join my team for a private and so excited about our ability to secure that very important AFC North win, but it's equally important that we build upon that this week and stack wins. It's November. Teams are revealing themselves this time of year. You're consistently improving or you're consistently not. Certainly we desire to be in the first group. We'll get an opportunity to display that on weekends. In the meanwhile, man, we got to work with an edge from a prep standpoint to ensure that happens. As you get into the guts of this thing, some of your physical preparation gets somewhat limited due to the attrition component of this journey or just simply the nature in which we practice. And so how do you get better, man? It's attention to detail, it's classroom work, it's additional informal work, it's really pointed on-field work. And so I'm excited about this week from that standpoint. From a health standpoint, I'll talk about some things. First, Aaron's got a fracture in his wrist.
It does not require surgery. Really, it's just about bracing it and securing it for his comfort and safety. And then it's about how functional he is. And so we don't have the answers to that as we stand here today. But certainly I would imagine we're going to get some clarity as we push through the week. I think his experience really kind of aids in that. He's the type of guy and has the type of profile that doesn't require a lot of physical work in an effort to be ready to play. And that's helpful. In the meanwhile, certainly it'll provide opportunities for Mason and Will to get quality work as we start the week. And I think that's the posture that we're in. A little later in the week, we'll take a look at Aaron. And again, as I mentioned, the variables are stabilizing it and making sure that he's safe and he can protect himself, brace himself as he falls, et cetera. Pain tolerance, but that doesn't seem to be an issue with Aaron. He wanted to go back in the game on Sunday. And then lastly, obviously, how effective he can be. And so, you know, Friday's probably a big day in terms of some of those things. I know he's working his tail off to be a component of this week. He and I talked yesterday. He expressed that directly. I'm of the mindset of supporting that, while at the same time, I got a healthy collective of guys as a team and as a unit to ready. In the meanwhile, that will be our mindset. We'll have a great week's work tomorrow, centered around Mason Rudolph and what he does, and we'll see where the week leads us, and we'll take it day by day. Alex Highsmith is still limited with his pec. He'll be limited at the early portions of the week. If there's an uptick in his participation and certainly good quality work, we'll consider him. Keyshawn Williams is in the protocol. We'll let the protocol speak for itself. I would imagine Slay is on the.
I know a lot of people are sitting there saying, oh, just start Mason Rudolph. Or they might think, oh, Mason's better than Rodgers. Well, first of all, in the game they had about equal stats. They each had 100 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 field goal. The defense got a couple turnovers to blow the game open. Mason Rudolph did adequate. He did good. Did he do great? No. Was he phenomenal? No. Was he good? Yes. Was he adequate? Yes. Was it exciting? Yes. Was he Joe Montana? No. He was throwing 2-yard passes. Every pass was nearly 2 yards. Gainwell broke 2 30-yard runs. Darnell Washington broke a 20-yard run. If those two don't break on 3rd and 20, there's 3 3rd and 20s. If they don't break 3rd and 20, then we're talking a different game. We're talking 9 points instead of 10. I mean, we're talking field goals and punting. We're not talking touchdown and field goal. So there was a 3rd and 2, and Metcalf's right in front of him wide open, and Rudolph doesn't throw it. And then he scrambles, Gainwell breaks open, and he doesn't see him either. So then the announcers, I saw it, and then the announcers called it out and said, I'm not sure why he didn't. So I'm just saying, I don't dislike Rudolph. I think he's a good backup, but I think Rodgers makes some of those more passes. That being said, I think the receivers also have a factor in it, because in the first half, the receivers are running into each other, and all 3 receivers keep converging into the same point. And then when Rudolph was in there, they were, in the first half running like this into each other, in the second half running like this. And I feel like they straightened it out, and they were running better routes in the second half. Whether it was because of Rudolph or because they got talked to and settled down, I don't know. But I think maybe they could simplify the offense for Rodgers, because Rodgers is calling plays at the line of scrimmage and changing plays, and maybe they get confused because Metcalf said a lot of times they're not getting the routes, and there was like 3 plays that Warren, he did that flea flicker, and on that one play, other play, Aaron Rodgers yelling at the receiver, what are you doing? You're not running the right route. So maybe simplify things for Aaron Rodgers a little bit too. You know what I mean?
Guy, what's your favorite?
Complexity by far.
What's that?
On the other side of the protocol, so we should be able to have him back this week. Similarly optimistic with Cole Holcomb. Jaylen Warren had an ankle injury in game. It certainly will limit him at the early portions of this week, but I think we're all optimistic about his inclusion as we push through the week. And then we got some other bumps and bruises associated with play. Guys came back like Isaac Seumalo, man, doesn't appear to have any negative effects of his participation. Certainly might limit him at the top of the week, but it's not going to affect his availability as we push forward toward game time. Now on to the Bears. Really excited about this one. I love the challenge of seeing a new collective, someone that we don't see quite often, and certainly they fit that description, but they're also a new collective from a schematics perspective. I'll start first on defense. They have Dennis Allen as their coordinator. He's been around. He has a mode of operation, if you will, and you see it in their video. They covet taking the ball away. They lead the league in takeaways. I think they got 22 on the season. DA also prides himself in good possession down defense. I think they're second in the league in terms of third down success rate. And I think those two statistics are the catalyst for why they're playing really good defense and they're a 7-3 football team. They're taking the ball away from people. They're playing really good on possession downs. Offensive units are at about 33.7%, I think, conversion rates.
Don't settle for less. Here's what others are doing to fix missing and broken teeth. The company everyone has been raving about is called Nuvia, with thousands of 5-star reviews and a 99.
Couple that with what's going on in the offensive side of the ball, you certainly have your challenges. They got quality players at all levels. They picked up Sweat a couple of years ago from Washington. He's a signature of their front and edge rush. He's a challenge certainly to deal with and has been. At the linebacker level, Edmonds, man, is a sideline-to-sideline tackler, big-time athlete. He's a good blitzer. I think he's got 4 interceptions on the season. They got some guys in the secondary that are really taking advantage of some circumstances, man, and getting people in one-dimensional moments. People have to absorb risk to keep pace with them, come back in football games, et cetera. And they're getting a lot of turnovers. Kevin has done it a long time at the safety position. He's been a ball guy. I was just, talking to someone this morning, man. He picked off balls as a member of the Tennessee Titans. He picked off balls at Middle Tennessee State. Guys that have a knack for securing the ball. Generally, they do it regardless of environment, and it certainly continues in Chicago for him. I think he leads them with 5 interceptions. They're getting some quality play outside at corner as well. Man, Gardner Johnson is a recent acquisition for them, and boy, he has really got on the move and trained in a really impressive fashion. He plays the nickel for him. He blitzes quite a bit. He's really good in underneath defense and man-to-man circumstances. I think he's got 3 sacks. As I mentioned, their third down posture is an aggressive one. They're in an up posture a lot. They blitz and bring a lot of people. Gardner Johnson being one of them, but I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Brisker as well. He's a down safety that's in and around the line of scrimmage quite a bit. I've known that young man a long time and got respect for his talents and his relationship with the game and the energy that he plays with as well. And then on the offensive side of the ball, certainly Ben Johnson challenges you schematically with his approach to ball. Is somewhat unique, but it is a mode of operation. They run the ball. They have a commitment. They have a 2-back system similar to what they had in Detroit. They have some highly successful perimeter runs like they also did in Detroit. They got some third down runs that they'll push your way. They're gadget oriented. The reverse game is a big component of it as well. All things that we saw from him in Detroit. They're doing a real good job of taking care of the ball on that side as well, we got a defense that's got 22 takeaways, and I think you've only turned it over 6 times on offense, you're going to be 7-3 or something of that nature. You're going to win a lot of football games, and they have. They do a great job of preserving the ball and protecting it. I can't say enough about what I've seen from Caleb Williams. Certainly, I had studied him a lot, being a young guy in this league and an NFC guy, but just really impressed with his physical talents, his ability to throw the football, his accuracy, his arm strength, his ability to extend, his ability to see the full field while doing so, minimizing negativity, the creativity associated with his escapability and play extension is really challenging. It's not only challenging in the stadium, but to be quite honest with you, it's challenging to duplicate in the process of prep. I doubt Will Howard is going to give us a quality look at some of that stuff I've been looking at on tape, for example. He's got a full complement of eligibles to work with. DJ Moore and others, man, are really impressive. But he's also got some emerging young people, and you feel the emergence of some of the young talent. Loveland obviously had a big game the other week against the Bengals. He's on the come, and so is Luther, their young receiver from Missouri. It's just, particularly as you get to this stage of the season, some of these young talented people that people have a lot of draft capital invested in usually captures my attention. They're usually finding their footing in this thing, and their talents are starting to show up more consistently. And so those are two lesser known guys that really have my attention as I study and watch tape, and we're at the early stages of formulating a plan. Can't say enough about their commitment to the run game, though. They're number 2 in the league in rushing, and you can't underscore that. But that's something that was very evident. That commitment was very evident from his time in Detroit as well. And so we're working with an edge, man. We're excited about going into a hostile venue, playing against a really good team. If you're a competitor, if you're looking to get better, if you're looking to prove yourself continually, those are some variables that are really attractive. But again, we show our excitement by being locked in and having good preparation days, and I'm looking forward to that over the course of this week. I'll pause and open up for questions.
Just to be clear, so you're not ruling out Aaron, the possibility he could play?
No, I'm not.
And will Friday be the first day that he will test it? Is that kind of where you are?
That's just what I have in my mind. There hadn't been anything. I know he's not working tomorrow, but certainly I assume it's going to be a little later in the week. And in the meanwhile, it'll give us an opportunity to really get solid with a plan and physical preparation around the other two.
Mike, would you like to see him practice at all? I mean, is he going to have to practice a little bit to be available?
Yeah, functionality is a component of it. I don't need it for my comfort, but I certainly need it for functionality, and functionality is a major component of whether or not he gets an opportunity this week.
Just before we continue, have you ever thought about how to rebuild civilization from scratch? No? Well, maybe you should. What's the first thing you'd reinvent? The wheel? Electricity? The printing press? Show those off to people. You'd be like, look at this. I made a